Kaige and I were excited to be representing Breakthrough Miami at the National Youth Leadership Institute in Washington, D.C. We arrived on the campus of American University and met other student leaders from across the country. During the orientation, we met NSLA team members and session facilitators who prepped us for the week's activities. The session facilitators were great at making us feel comfortable in our new setting and getting us excited for each activity. We took part in creative icebreaker activities that were designed to help us get to know each other better. In one activity, we were asked to build something as a group. Mine decided to construct the frame of a house. We also met the students serving as NSLA summer interns. For more team fun, we were separated into groups and competed in various challenges. Then it was back to the dorms for some much-needed sleep. Day 2 saw the Breakthrough Miami team rise early for breakfast and then head to our first session of the day. We created charts depicting our personal strengths and future goals. We set up an exhibit in the hallway and presented our charts to our fellow student leaders. In our next session, we learned how to hard code a robot's movements. We even got to work with Play-Doh in an activity designed to help us work together better as a team. Our collective efforts produced some very unique and funny creations. During the afternoon session, the PBS NewsHour team discussed the art of storytelling for our assigned team interview projects. We also examined issues about how a viewer can perceive a situation versus the actual reality of that situation. Afterward, we went across campus to the cafeteria for some lunch. Refueled and ready to go, we divided into our assigned groups and worked on our team interview projects. Continuing our team bonding exercises, we competed in a game to see which group could pass Swedish fish down the chain of team members the fastest. The next activity, which is my favorite, had us divide into small groups and compete in a fashion show competition using toilet paper, streamers, pipe cleaners, paper plates, and construction paper. Our panel of judges with their hilarious alter egos scored the models from each team as they walked the runway. Each model was fabulous in their outfits. And the judges' comments were way too funny. After a long and memorable day, we headed back to our dorms. We awoke recharged and ready for breakfast. Then we headed across campus to our morning sessions. We started with a creative team activity about launching a fictitious product we designed as a group. The PBS NewsHour team returned to continue our training and practice on how to conduct interviews for our assigned team projects. The group then went to our Hill Day training session across campus to prepare for our lobbying visit to Capitol Hill the next day. Afterward, we resumed our sessions with activities designed to help us better learn how to effectively communicate instructions to team members, as well as practice our abilities to spot patterns. Next, we were divided into small teams and put our collective creativity to use in building working catapults. We were surprised to learn that our next activity was a bus tour of the monuments throughout D.C. Our first stop was at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to see the White House. Next, we visited the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. While walking, we paused to take photos of the Washington Monument in the distance. There were other tour groups also visiting the Jefferson Memorial. The next stop was to the Lincoln Memorial. Kaige and I paused for a photo with the reflecting pole and the Washington Monument in the background. After returning to campus, we had some time to work on our interview project teams before heading to the dorms. Excitement was in the air as we had breakfast and then joined our fellow student leaders for the bus ride to Capitol Hill. We departed the buses and walked toward the Capitol building, pausing to take photos to commemorate the occasion. Afterward, each contingency of student leaders and their chaperones visited the offices of their senators and House representatives from their home state to lobby for funding of youth after-school and summer learning programs. The next activity on the day's agenda was a meet and greet with the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, at the offices of the U.S. Department of Education. Each student leader had a table set up with information about each of their respective organizations. I had the opportunity to speak with Secretary Cardona about Breakthrough Miami and how the organization provides year-round academic and professional development services to South Florida teens beginning at 5th grade and continuing through 12th grade. Kaige and I were thrilled to take a photo with Secretary Cardona at the Breakthrough Miami table. Next, we convened in the press room for a presentation that featured Q&A with prominent members from the education, after-school, and summer learning communities, who all spoke about the importance of funding youth programming and its positive impact on the lives of students across the country. Once the presentation wrapped, I took the opportunity to introduce myself and speak with some of the event attendees, like Deputy Secretary of Education Cindy Martin, Terry Ferendi, a partner at Collaborative Communications Group, Suzette Harvey, President and CEO of Primetime Palm Beach County, and Carlos Santini, CEO at Mezen by Mott, and who was also one of our session facilitators throughout the week. My fellow student leaders and I also had the chance to take a group photo with Secretary Cardona. The event concluded with an ice cream social on the plaza of the building. There is no better way for us to end our Hill Day experience than with some delicious tasting ice cream and popsicle treats to cool off from the hot DC summer day. After returning back to the buses, we were again surprised to learn that the group would be continuing our tour of DC monuments with a visit to the Martin Luther King Memorial. We returned to campus and the winning groups from our team challenge competitions from earlier in the week received medals and posed for photos. After dinner, we were given more time to work with our interview project teams on our presentations, which were scheduled for the next day. After a hearty breakfast, we gathered for the start of the last day of the National Youth Leadership Institute. The NSLA team and our session facilitators provided us with a recap of the many valuable lessons we learned throughout the week and gave an overview of the day's agenda. Each group presented their team interview projects and received feedback on their work. After the team presentations, we had our last lunch together. We also took our last group photos and said our final goodbyes to the NSLA team, the session facilitators, and each other. After gathering our luggage, we headed to a local ice cream shop for some cold, tasty treats to celebrate the end of our amazing week in DC. We then jumped into a car service and headed to the airport. We boarded the plane and settled in for our flight back to Miami.